When he came out of the bathroom, he suddenly noticed something he had missed when he first entered the room. Hanging on the wall diagonally across from the bed was a round mirror. There was nothing particularly strange about a mirror hanging on the wall, but when Zirong saw it, he felt a chill run down his spine. Isn't this just like the mirror from the movie The Ring, where Sadaka looks into it? Anyone who has seen the movie would recognize that iconic round mirror hanging on the wall. Zirong felt extremely uneasy even though he knew he was just scaring himself. At that moment his phone rang. It was a WeChat message from his colleague, containing the contact information for the project coordinator for the next day. Zirong wasn't very close to his female colleague, so he hadn't told her everything that had happened right away. But now in the WeChat chat, he mentioned the strange situation he had encountered. His colleague replied that everything in her room was normal and that the decoration was standard. Feeling even more uncomfortable, Zirong didn't say much more. He put down his phone and turned on all the lights in the room as well as the TV. He felt a bit more at ease with the lights and the noise from the TV. He lay down on the bed staring at the TV and eventually fell asleep. Then he had a nightmare. In the dream, Zirong was standing in front of the round mirror, holding a wooden comb and slowly combing his hair. In real life, Zirong had short hair, but in the dream his hair was very long. He remembered humming a tune while combing his hair. Suddenly, he realized in the dream that the voice humming the tune wasn't his. It was a woman's voice, one he had never heard before. This realization woke him up with a start. He sat up drenched in sweat. The lights were still on, and the TV was still playing. He quickly got up and checked the strange mirror, but there was nothing unusual. He glanced at his phone and saw that it was around 1 a.m. Since their job often involved overtime, he knew that many colleagues back at the Beijing headquarters were still working. He immediately started a WeChat chat with a close colleague to talk about what had just happened, hoping that the conversation would help calm him down. However, his colleague dismissed his experience, saying, "You're just scaring yourself. You were on a business trip, and relax a bit. We're stuck here with the boss breathing down our necks, and we still have to work. It was just a nightmare." Zirong tried to emphasize to his colleague that it wasn't just his imagination, but his colleague replied, "Even if you did think about it, you're not in that room anymore. If you're not in danger, just stop worrying. Close the door and sleep. You're a grown man. Don't be so jumpy." Zirong agreed that his colleague was busy working and didn't want to bother him further with his fears. After a few more messages, he felt a bit more relaxed. His colleague reassured him, saying, "It's okay, just go back to sleep. If you're still worried, come to sleep." Zirong declined, not wanting to disturb his colleague further. He put down his phone, lay back down, and eventually fell asleep again. Unfortunately, he had another nightmare. This time, he was lying in bed facing away from the bathroom. He heard noises coming from the bathroom, as if someone was fiddling with the door. He sat up to see what was going on. The bathroom door in this hotel was made of frosted glass, which obscured the view, but still allowed him to see a vague silhouette. As he watched, the bathroom door slowly opened. After the door opened, a woman stood inside. Her body was slightly leaning forward, and her hair was extremely long, covering her entire face. She walked towards him step by step, slowly raising her hand to comb her hair with a wooden comb while humming a tune. This scene jolted Zirong awake once again, but when he woke up, he realized he wasn't in bed. He was standing by the window next to the bed. He had fallen asleep standing up, and upon waking, he found himself standing. Moreover, when he looked up, he saw that the window in front of him had been opened at some point, with cold air blowing in. For a moment, Zirong even doubted whether he had truly woken up or was still dreaming. He slapped his face hard, but he was indeed awake. He also swore that he had never had any issues with sleepwalking before. Not only that, but soon, he felt a liquid flowing from his nose to his mouth, causing an intense itch. Instinctively, he wiped his face with his hand and saw that it was blood. He was having a nosebleed, and both nostrils were bleeding. What's more, he felt a bit of pain in his hand. Upon closer inspection, he noticed that the joint of his index finger was broken, with a small piece of flesh missing, as if it had been gouged out. It was clearly not just a minor scrape. It was painful, and he had no idea when it had happened. These successive accidents terrified Zirong so much that he dared not stay in the room any longer. He quickly wiped his nosebleed, got dressed as fast as he could, and without even packing his luggage, he rushed to the hotel lobby. At this point, only the security guard was in the lobby. The reception attendant was nowhere to be seen. The guard, who appeared to be in his 50s, looked at Zirong, who was in a state of panic, and asked him what had happened. Zirong recounted his experience to the guard. To his surprise, the guard remained very calm, just as he had when Zirong had come down earlier, complaining about someone being in his room. This time, with the added details of nightmares, nosebleeds, and a broken finger, the guard still showed no sign of surprise. He comforted Zirong, saying, "Don't be nervous, young man. You're just tense. Why don't you go to the security guard's restroom and take a break? It's nothing serious. You just had a nightmare." Zirong followed the guard to the restroom and asked him if there was something wrong with the hotel. The guard replied, "There's no problem. Don't overthink it." He explained to Zirong, "The room you stayed in is just a bit old. It used to be a dormitory for factory workers. After the factory went bankrupt, the hotel bought it and converted it into guest rooms. Later, the hotel built a new building connected to the old one, which is why the rooms look different. Your colleague might be staying in the new building, while you're in the old one. That's the only difference." Zirong pressed further, asking if anything had happened in the factory before, but at that moment, the guard said, "I need to go on patrol now. You can rest here for a while. If you want to take a nap, go ahead." He didn't answer the question and left, never to return. Zirong was too scared to sleep and spent the entire night sitting in the guard's restroom. When it got light, he finally came out, went back to his room, packed his luggage, and immediately went to check out. By this time, the reception had a new attendant who apologized to Zirong and told him that he wouldn't be charged for his stay. All the deposits, including the money he had paid the day before, were refunded to him. Later, he told his female colleague about his experience, but she said she had stayed there comfortably without any issues. However, after they finished their work the next day, they changed hotels and didn't encounter any other problems. In October and November, Zirong traveled to that city several more times for work, but he never dared to stay at that hotel again. To this day, when he thinks about it, he still finds the whole experience extremely terrifying. The man in the first room, the strange dreams he had in the second room, the unexplained nosebleed, the open window, and whether the security guard had withheld any information, none of these questions have been answered yet.